Hello. Hello and welcome wherever you are on planet Earth. I was like, maybe there's somebody tuning into this from not on planet Earth. That would be wild. But I will simply say, wherever you are on planet Earth, just starting to be middle of the day where I am on the west coast of California. So I could start to say good afternoon. Happy Easter to those of you who celebrate Easter, whether it feels, deeply religious or spiritual or a fun activity with your children or a connection to the earth that you have around spring. If you celebrate Easter, happy Easter. I am wearing my Christ themed holiday onesie. I don't mean that to be offensive to anybody, but I gave myself this red velour. I can't really show you the whole thing, but it's like a whole one piece outfit. And I gave it to myself for Christmas. And so I thought I'd put it on for Easter as well. Another really big day in Jesus's life. Oh, this is getting off to a bad start. Sorry. Okay. And so welcome. And as always, yeah, this may be morning, it may be afternoon, it may be evening for you. Wherever you are in the world, I say welcome to you. As with any live that I do, I always really welcome your shares. I love it when people just say hi so I can see who's here. I'm using a different platform, so I actually can't see you as you join unless you say hi or you leave me a comment, ask a question, share some relevance to your real life. And I want to get into this idea of how do we get our touch needs met during when we're maybe in quarantine. Or hi Nadia, oh my goodness. I really appreciate that. So how do we get our touch needs met when we're sheltering in place, perhaps solo, perhaps with roommates, but not maybe ones that we have a touch relationship with, or even in quarantine, perhaps away from family. I actually know people who are separated from their parents or separated from their children, separated from their families, either due to the job that they have or potential contact with COVID-19. Hello, hello. So beautiful to see your faces. I'm appreciating those of you who are saying hello. And I really want to address this from two levels, if you will. Neither one is more important than the other per se. One is a much more content, strategic level, like actual practical ideas, tips, tricks, tools. And for any of you who may have also really great ideas or something you found that works for you, like, oh, I did this and had no idea, or I'd never tried that before. I mean, I love what I've quoted my colleague Nisha Moodley a number of times on this because I think this is a useful distinction. Basically, this is not the best thing that could have happened, but it is happening and we will make the best of it. And I think many of us have seen a lot of innovation actually come, things that, was like, we could never do that. That could never be done that way. This is not possible. Suddenly it's like, actually, maybe in the midst of a pandemic, it is possible. And so if you have perhaps gotten innovative around your own touch needs, I'd be thrilled to have them also included here for other people's benefit. Because ideally, that's always all this is for, is hopefully that it can actually help or serve you or someone else. So I want to really look at it actually from that level of what are some actual practical tips, tools, tricks, innovations, etc., around our very, very real needs as animal bodies, as human beings, as social creatures. And then I also want to look at it from this kind of zoomed out perspective of what it really means to allow life to touch us. And that phrase came to me in the shower the other day around this idea. And I'll probably just weave between the two. But I think I'll start just a little bit from this idea that even these practical tips and tools, that there has to be a willingness to allow ourselves to be touched, to receive touch, in order for the touch itself to sink in, for the need for touch to actually be met in some way. And there's a couple things I want to say about that, and I'll probably repeat them throughout. One is that allowing a need to be met doesn't mean you don't have it again a moment later, or you don't want more. And so often there's like, if I actually let my thirst be quenched, am I allowed to still want that? Am I allowed to still want more touch? Like if I actually let some sort of touch sink in and feel, like the meeting of that we unconsciously, usually it's unconscious, but we sort of trick and trap ourselves into believing, then that means we're not allowed to want it, a second, a moment, a minute, an hour later, or to not want more. And we actually, both are possible at the same time. We can actually let ourselves be nourished by something, let a touch need be met, quench that thirst, actually receive it, feel it, drink it in, let it sink in, let that touch need be met. And we can want it longer, more, different, again. All of that can exist at the same time. We don't have to trap ourselves into sort of chronic lack out of a fear that we're not allowed to want more if we receive something. And, I don't want to get too far into this, but the way that I'm seeing things come through during this pandemic is that they're just a magnification or a highlighting or like an in your facing of things that are always true. So I see this in relationships or with people all the time, long before this pandemic, and it will come up again long after we have passed through this particular portal. That if something isn't just the way we think we want it, or from the person we want it from, or in the way we want it, or that we'll often dismiss receiving it at all. And so I'm going to invite you, not as a way to dismiss what you actually do want or need, not as a way at all to dismiss the validity of lack of touch from another person. If you are sheltering in place alone, or again, with like roommates that you don't do touch with, none of the suggestions that I'm offering are here to say like, this should just do the trick, or like, you don't need anyone else, or, touch needs aren't valid, or none of this is to dismiss the actual validity of a desire, a longing, a need for touch from another human being, maybe from a specific human being, maybe in a specific way, but to also be willing not so much to relax the desire or the need, but to also simultaneously still allow yourself to be nourished and fed, and for this need to be met, even as you might still be wanting more or different, or from a person or from a different person. So really allowing that those two things can be true at the same time. So actually, the way that I wrote that note down was like, don't fuck yourself by focusing on it not being exactly the way you think you want it, so that you don't receive what you can get. That was the more like samurai sword way of saying it. Like, just don't fuck yourself over for not being able to receive any touch, or get this need met in any way, just because it's not the exact thing that you do want. Or how sometimes it also is this way we determine, this is, I know how to get this need met, and it's like this, and if I can't have this, then the need's not met. And I'm saying, great, you can long for that, you can desire that, that can be true. You might know yourself intimately in and out, and you've played with this and experimented and practiced, and this is absolutely true. And can you also allow some of yourself for this to be met in some way or to be nourished, to let this seep in so that you're not completely withholding getting your touch needs met during this time? And that is part of this piece of actually, can we allow life to touch us? Are we willing to allow the life that is lifing? And this is at the most, I want to say this is kind of the most zoomed out, the most energetic level. And then we'll start zooming into some practical tips, tools, practices to take on. But even in a moment, like I could be naked right now, not even have, like, I actually put this on partly because it's not velour on the inside, but it's like a heavier fabric and it touches my whole body. And also then I can touch myself and palms of my hands get the touch on it. I put it on because I wanted to feel touched. And, but even if I was totally naked, see, I knew this live was going like off to like a kind of a wacky start here. There is a way that actually just the energy of life all around me, like I could allow myself to be touched by it. Yes, at the skin level, but also even like the pressure, like there is an actual pressure. Yes, the scientists among you are saying like, yes, it's the air molecules, or whatever anyway, that's true. And at an energetic level, it's like the pressure of just lifing all around. We are always already being touched. And so that's one layer. And again, none of this, all the way from like the most kind of wide out there energetic levels, all the way down to the most practical physical tips, none of this is to in any way dismiss like the depth of the desire to be touched or where you have that need to be touched. And that for some of you, some of these may work and some of them may not. And for some of you right now, this energetic layer of being touched by life, like you maybe like, fuck you, Kendra, like can't feel it, not meeting the need. Like, could we just get some human touch in here? That's totally fine. I'm totally okay with that. You do not have to agree with me. And I don't mean to dismiss anybody's experience. So at a very practical level, so I already said this about my onesie, right? It has a more weighted material. It's soft on the outside. One is to literally allow yourself to feel your clothes on you. And for some of you, some people play with this all the time, right? But like something that's tighter, like a corset. It doesn't actually have to be a corset. I'm just using that as an example, but things that are tighter might actually be more supportive right now. And there are ways to do that aren't even necessarily tight or restrictive clothing. But again, you could wear sometimes I wear like an undershirt under my shirt, right? And I can feel that closer than the shirt. You could actually wear something that's more corsety. There's technology to this also. This is part of the reason there's all the pressure points in the skull and all these different things, but like wrapping your head almost like a turban, but not necessarily with the same technology as a turban because I'm not skilled at that. But you could wrap parts of your body. New moms after pregnancy, again, there's a whole art form to this and a science behind it, but actually wrapping the abdomen or the belly after birth. But you could do that. You could just take cloth and just wrap it around just to feel that pressure, like, oh, something is touching me. All the way to, a scarf. Like really, I was wearing a scarf the other day. I have it here. It's like having something that's bigger and wrapping it all the way around. This is a way to feel wrapped and snuggled in something. A blanket, putting a blanket, and again, a weighted blanket for many of us is even better if you don't have access to like an actual weighted blanket, just like the heaviest one you've got, or layering on 1, 2, 3, 4, just like layering the blankets on so you can feel that weight. When I was a child, I don't know if I or my mother has this blanket anywhere, but we had a quilt that was like really quilted, and it had a lot of velour and velvet and corduroy, so like heavier fabrics. And then it also was filled in some places, and it was just like a really heavy blanket. I fucking loved that blanket because it helped me feel like I was weighted down. And now there's all this, now they make sensory, weighted blankets for sensory neuroatypical, or and again, I'm not saying it in that way to dismiss it. I'm just saying, like, I don't fully understand those. So like, and now it's sort of out there as a thing, but I felt that as a child before I ever heard about that. And I want to make a little side note here just to say some of these things that I'm going to say, if not all of them, for some of you, they require us kind of getting over ourselves. Like, you might feel weird lying down on the floor or the couch and putting 5 blankets on top of you. Who the fuck cares? Like, who the fuck cares if you look weird? Who cares if anybody else judges you, or you think it's silly? If it works, it works. And frankly, like, there is no better time to get over yourself about seeming weird or silly or like than now. Like now, I mean, maybe the best time to get over it was 20 years ago. Second best time is now. So just like getting over, like, who cares if this seems silly or weird or makes sense or doesn't? Like, just explore and find out, does it work? So the clothes on your body and choosing the fabrics or choosing the weight or layering clothes on or tightening them a little bit, all can give us more sensation of touch. And again, it may not be the full thing you want. You want somebody's hands, you want a big hug to hold you, and you may not be able to have that right now. And so we're saying, like, are there smaller ways to get this met, or other ways? And I invite you inside of this. I actually catch myself in saying that, smaller ways, lesser ways. I invite you to be willing to be curious enough and interested enough in the results or the experience you have with this, to find out there may be things that you do for the rest of your life. You're like, I never would have tried putting 5 blankets on, but I love that. And in addition to being hugged or having sex or, all the other touch things that I might want, this is actually something that I want to do for the rest of my life, because this is a whole other touch need that's getting met. And I didn't even know that I could meet it in this way. So some other things that are in that realm, I happen to have some sandbags that my son's preschool teacher made so that we could use them for like fort building. And that was the Christmas gift that she gave to him when he was 3.5. And we still have them. I think we have 3 or 4 of them. And I will sometimes, and I've done this for a long time, not just pandemic. And again, this is like getting over yourself. Like, who cares if this looks weird? I will lie down and I will put these sandbags on my body, and they feel so good. Bean bags will work. In some ways it's nice if you can get one that's like a good weight. You could probably, if you could find a way, even if you actually have weights, like a 5 pound or an 8 pound or a 10 pound. But if you could find some way to put it in something that will diffuse the weight, so you're not, maybe like I've never tried this. I could probably put like even up to 12 pounds like on my chest just as an actual weight, and it would probably feel good. But certain parts of your body, like, be sensitive. So, but maybe there's a way that you can put like a book or a wood or a box that will diffuse the weight on your thighs, right? Lie down and put it on your thighs, and then put the weight in there and let it diffuse. And like on our thighs, these are really, really good points to put weights on your chest. Be sensitive to yourself. Like, your abdomen might not want 20 pounds of weight. It might just want like 5, like something that feels good. So snuggling a stuffed animal, really great. I have the teddy bear that I've had since I was 4 years old. It was given to me for Christmas when I was 4. And I still sometimes snuggle. His name is Big Bear. I don't have him here to show you, but I will still sometimes actually snuggle this bear to sleep at night. We have a bunch of other stuffed animals because I have children. But maybe you have an old one, or maybe you can order one online or something like, and then wash it in the washing machine and then just snuggle it. We also have again, like I'm kind of lucky that I have these children. But my grandmother actually gave us this enormous bear. This bear is larger than I am. We call him Monster Bear. And both my kids will at times, like I can see, they just go in and they'll be like in Monster Bear's arms. And I have done it. And this was pre-pandemic. But I just like, we had Monster Bear in a corner of the living room, and there was this, I just felt like this deep grief. And I just went in and I let Monster Bear's arms hold me. But it doesn't have to be that big. I mean, it's good to have something that's just a little bit bigger, something you can actually wrap your arms around, snuggle into, stuffed animal. And again, sometimes this is getting over ourselves. Oh, I'm 42 years old. I shouldn't need to snuggle a teddy bear. Like, fuck that noise. If it feels good to snuggle a teddy bear, snuggle a teddy bear. Like, who cares? If you want to take it to bed at night and sleep with it all night long, I have literally done that in the last week. I have taken my teddy bear to bed and I've slept with him all night long. So I don't know. I'm a little wacky. You may not want to model your life after mine, but I give you permission from my wacky world to yours. If you have pets, you've probably already done this, but again, I would say, like, see if you can really get like your pet to sit in your lap and then take some time. This is the one with pets that I think that people remember, like, oh yeah, I'm petting my dog and I let my dog lick my face and it feels good. And we're, maybe we snuggle a little bit, but actually be willing to receive the touch. Give it time. We have a dog, and I was having definitely a more anxious day, just some unknowns. This was a couple weeks ago, and like, should we do this or should we do that? And I was lying down on the couch, and my partner called the dog over, and basically it's really his dog. So he like made the dog get on top of me and lie down and stay there. And then it took something for me. This is like where I had to, it took attention and intention to just stay and actually let the dog lie on me. And I was probably there for 30 minutes. And it really was this like sinking down. I was like, oh man, like, thank you. This feels good. And then about 5 minutes later, I was like, oh my God, this is really good. And by the end of 30 minutes, I was like, oh, okay, I actually had to give myself this time. And it's kind of, this is a little different than just touch needs, but it's kind of like Shavasana. Sometimes we're just like, all right, I want to do the practice, or I want to do the thing. I want to get all the benefit. And then I see people like leave yoga class before Shavasana, or, they're there for just a little bit and they want to like pop up, right? Rather than like, okay, can you actually sink into it? Can you sink into the experience? Like, actually let it give to you. Let yourself be nourished. Same is true with children. So I know this is a little different than like if you're actually sheltering in place alone or quarantined alone. But I want to make a little side note here, especially for mothers, but it's true for probably all parents or anyone who's sheltering in place with children. Children are really fucking annoying, and they're probably touching you all the time. And you're probably like, I don't know. Okay, maybe you're not. I am. I'm just like, oh my God, seriously, children, could you stop touching me? Like, just stop touching me. However, sometimes there's boundaries to be drawn there, right? And like, okay, mama needs a little like actual non-touch time, or you can't touch me like that, or this kinds of things. But I have also found that if I can remember to relax the part of me that feels overtouched by them and let their touch in, that I am more nourished by it. And sometimes it also is creating a slightly different container for it. Like, they're like, me. Like, my daughter really likes to grab my butt these days. I'm like, stop grabbing my butt. Not okay. But I can also say, like, she's reaching out to touch, and I actually want, touch. And so like, hey, come on over here. Like, let's get on the couch. Okay, let's find this way, and let's actually be close to each other. So for any people who are sheltering in place with children, if there's any way that you can actually use your children's desire to be in contact with you, not use them, but they want to be in contact with you, but like renegotiate the circumstances in order to actually be able to be nourished by it, I encourage that. This is definitely in the realm of like time to get over yourself is there's a whole realm of sensory play. I'm not going to go into all the different things. I'll name a few things, but you can go Google, like look it up on Pinterest, look it up on Google, all these different things of like sensory play. Feathers, shaving cream, whipped cream. There's these things called water beads. I've never heard of them. They're kind of like tapioca. Like you can do this like water bead thing. Sand, dirt, actually those big things that they put out around Halloween, they're those big pits of corn that I think are totally disgusting because I'm sure they're filled with germs, but at home, beans, corn, right? Like something, again, you might not be able to, maybe you can fill your whole bathtub and like get in it and feel that, but maybe it's just a bowl and you like run your hands through the beans or the corn or the rice, like sensory play in these ways. And again, I would say like really get over it. Like use shaving cream if it feels good to you, or whipped cream, like lick whipped cream off your own fingers. Who cares? It's not weird. It's just like, or it is weird and we're all weird. Like let it actually, I love these. I hadn't totally kept up with the comments. I just saw someone say shag carpeting. That makes me really happy. So all these different pieces of sensory play, and I really say like they're all over Pinterest, they're all over Google, check it out. You probably have a lot of the things already. You don't necessarily need to like order things on Amazon to fulfill these, but find like, what do you have? What do you actually have that could fulfill this? And then let yourself, like, this goes back then to the very beginning, which is like, you have to actually allow life to touch you. And stop arguing with like, this isn't enough. This isn't just the way I want it. I actually want a human. This isn't good enough. And let yourself be nourished in some way. So this is a little bit in the realm of sensory play, but it's also as just baths and showers, actually letting like the water touch you, but letting yourself take it in more. Actually letting yourself be touched. You can, it's like shifting the context, right? From like, oh, just washing in the shower as quick as I can, and like on to the next thing or whatever it is to, and it doesn't even mean your shower has to be that much longer. Like a lot of us are still actually living in a drought, even if it's been raining, and it may not be a drought where you are, who knows? Anyway, regardless, it doesn't mean you have to necessarily be in there forever. But consciously, with intention, with attention, let the water touch you. Let it feel good. Let it be just the right temperature, or play with it. If you're into like intensity in touching, make it cold, make it hot, make it warm, like play with it so that you get touched in all those ways. And this was a funny one that came to me when I was planning for this, was like, if you are a person who has not just what we kind of overarchingly classify as touch needs, which we all have, but some of us, your primary love language is touch. It's not mine. I want to just acknowledge that. But like for some people, this is like, total primary love language, like deep touch needs. But we still sort of put that in this overarching abstract thing, like I need touch, rather than what is the specific touch? And for some of you, there's some real consistency. Like I like this kind of gentle but firm touch, and I just want like a hug really does it, or this pressure, right? The sandbags, those will work really well for those who like pressure, gentle touch. And so for some of you, again, whatever that is, there'll be some consistency. Like, I just know that I need this. This is really the thing. And maybe there's a little variation. And then there are people who have touch needs, but they need a lot of variation. And they like, for it to be soft and gentle, or like feathers. And then they're also, it's kind of going in a whole other realm I didn't totally predict, but, and then you like, a scratch, and then you want, like this. And I was thinking, because I was actually thinking of the thing where like, if you're brushing your hair, kind of like the water, you can just recontextualize it and actually pay attention, like let yourself actually feel the touch of the hairbrush. And then I was like, and then you could like spank yourself with the hairbrush, actually be willing to get the variety of your touch needs met even if you can't have them met by another human right now. I have spanked myself with a hairbrush before. So again, this is just from my wacky world to yours, like any way that that gives you permission. Can't believe I'm putting this on the internet for my parents to see. So be willing also to play with like the different textures that work for you. And if you need different kinds, like don't necessarily assume that just one way is going to totally do it for you. Be willing to actually play with these different pieces. Again, if we kind of zoom out to some of the more subtle realms, literally just the air or the wind. If you go out, sometimes I love going out in storms. It's actually always been, it'll start storming up here and I'll be like, get in the car, kids, we're going to the beach. So we're not doing that now, even if it was storming, but feeling the sun, actually letting yourself not just like, oh, the sun feels good, letting yourself be touched by the warmth of the sun, letting yourself be touched by the way that a breeze or the wind might caress your skin. Like, again, it takes intention, it takes attention, it takes being like, yes, I'm going to allow this to touch me. I'm going to receive it. I'm willing to be nourished by this kind of touch. I still want maybe this other kind of touch, but I am willing to be nourished in some way by this touch. Also, going into the realm of nature is big fan of hugging trees. Like, actually if you wrap your whole body around a tree, in a way, yes, you're the one touching the tree, but let that tree touch you back. If you can climb a tree, sometimes you can get a little bit more of that, like being held. Sometimes if I'm up in just the right spot, I can feel the way that this branch is holding here or this, and like really lean into like a big trunk of a tree. Let it, you can hug it like with your arms and your chest, but also you might lean your face up against it. Let the tree actually, and rather than just feeling like you are touching the tree, again, it takes this shift in awareness and a willingness to say, yes, I will let life touch me back. I will actually also allow this tree to touch me in response. Or a plant, a flower. The other day I was like brushing my face up against, I can't remember what flower it was, but I was just kind of playing with it. So like letting things actually touch you, trees, plants, flowers, grass, all the way to, and I know not everybody has access to this, but if you can actually literally lay your body down, full body on the ground. If you really want to, you can put a blanket or a towel down. If you really don't want to get dirty, I highly recommend, if you have actual earth available to you. And this, again, get over yourself. Somebody might see you lying on the ground. It's okay. It's okay. If there was ever a time to just let go of whether we look silly or weird or somebody judges us, now is the time. Who cares? But to actually fully lay down and actually let grass and twigs and leaves and actual earth touch you, and then practice like we do in Shavasana at the end of yoga class, yoga asana class, or just relaxation meditation, actually let your body become heavier and heavier and heavier. So you start to really feel the way that you are weighted down into the earth and that the earth is touching you and that you're held. Maybe put a weighted blanket on top of you, get yourself sandwiched in between the earth and something heavy. Put a rock on your chest, put a rock right on your forehead. Get really nice, smooth rocks, not too heavy, nice light rocks. Put them right on your eyes, let yourself actually be touched, and then give yourself enough time to let it in. Let it in. Let that touch actually nourish and fill and fulfill you. So the last thing that I haven't brought up, and in some ways it's the most obvious, but I want to give it a little bit of its own, is self-touch. And this is one of those places we all know it. And most of us tend to discount the touch we give ourselves as not good enough, or kind of like second rate, or, well, I'm only touching myself because I don't have anyone else to touch me. And again, I've heard this for the last 20 years. It's not even about being sheltered in place alone, but just like even people, again, I mean, this can go all the way to the realm of self-pleasure or masturbation. It doesn't have to. But in that realm, even people who are super sex positive, like rah, rah, yes, masturbation, will often, I don't mean, if this isn't you, I don't want to put it on you, but many, 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 many people I have talked to will unconsciously find these very subtle layers of like, oh yeah, there was some part of me that felt like it still was a little bit shameful because I don't have a partner. Masturbation itself might not be shameful, but like, I wouldn't really have to be doing it to myself if I had someone else to do it for me, rather than like it's its own whole realm. The touch I get to receive from myself. And again, I want to say this is in the realm of sexual and sensual touch, and completely outside the realm of sexual and sensual touch. But just the touch that I give myself is not secondary to the touch I receive from my partner, from my children, from a pet, from other sources. Like, it is an entire touch relationship that I get to have with myself. And there are times that that is the touch that I want more than touch I want from another human being. And so, again, you could just use this time, not that this is the, like, oh, this is happening for a reason, or this is such a great opportunity, but like we happen to have this opportunity. You could take the opportunity to develop a self-touch relationship, or to deepen your self-touch relationship, or to expand your self-touch relationship. Perhaps your self-touch relationship has only been sexual. Imagine if you had a partner and that's literally the only way you ever touched each other was like only intercourse. You'd be like, dude, sometimes I just want to hold hands, like sometimes I just want to sit next to you. Sometimes, that's true with yourself too. It's a little bit like that. Like if you just go like straight for masturbation, without any like, oh, well, how else do I like, or just, um, platonic self-touch. And it's not second rate. Like maybe you want to hold your friend's hand, maybe you want to sit next to your friend while you watch a movie on the couch, and you can't right now, but you can have that experience with yourself, and really finding in that discovery, like, how do different parts of me want to be touched by me, in the broadest sense and also in the most specific sense. So really, again, getting into, how do I want to be touched right now? Not just the broad, like, I am missing touch right now. In this moment, if I could be touched in any way, what would be like the most amazing way? What would bring the most nourishment? What would bring the most pleasure? What do I actually long for right now? And how can I bring that to myself right now? Is that the hairbrush spank right now? Is that the one I want the most? Is it like a hug and I can bring that to myself? Is it like that kind of gentle, the way that I would want to be touched, like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. Do I want someone to stroke my brow or touch my hair, or what is the actual touch that I would most that I think I would be most nourished by right now, or that I'm most missing, most longing for, and how can I begin to bring that to myself? And at the very least, begin the exploration of what that might be like. And it really takes meeting any way that there might be some subtle judgment, subtle shame, subtle pushing away of the way you can touch yourself because it's not another person, or I wish it was someone else, or I wouldn't have to do it if I wasn't alone, or any of those things, and really start to like honor yourself with self-touch, self-massage, self-cradling your face, all the different things. So, and then I'm going to come back. I want to look at the comments because I really love how much so many of you have brought amazing things. And please continue as I finish up here and then go into the comments. But to bridge it back to the beginning, this allowing ourselves to be touched by life and allowing the nourishment of the touch that is available right now. Again, in no way to detract from or to dismiss any way that there is something else that you might want or that you might be longing for, or some touch need that doesn't get met. Can you also allow this one to be met in some way or to be nourished? But all of these require that we be willing to allow life to touch us, that we actually be willing to allow touch from nature, from just the literal energy of life, like vibrating at the molecular level all around us all the time. Some people, this is actually back to the self-touch, but sometimes people actually like to not be touched by another person, but to have the energy played with. Have you ever done that with yourself? So like feeling the energetic layer, letting a sandbag or a stuffed animal or a pet or a tree or a weighted blanket or the water of a bath or a shower or the wind or your clothes or all these things, to actually let yourself be nourished by them does require a shift in, yes, I am willing to be nourished in some way. Yes, I'm willing to actually feel the touch of that. And even if it's just like for a moment or like a little micro nourishment, I will receive that. I will actually let it feed me, and it does not detract from any other desire, longing, want, or need that I have. Letting myself be nourished by that and being willing to be touched by life, by the energy of life happening all around you, by the consciousness of the universe itself, to be willing to be touched by that, or to be willing to be touched in these actual physical ways by what is in your environment, what you do have some access to, does not diminish anything that you might still also be wanting, needing, longing for, desiring. So I want to see all these brilliant, funny, beautiful things that you wrote. Hello. It's so beautiful to see your faces. And oh, wait. Okay, here we go. Stephanie said, human design motivation is need. Cognition is touch. I haven't been touched physically much in 8 years. A deep yearning that I can survive without being touched physically. A deep learning that she can survive without being touched physically, but by being touched in life in so many other ways. Seeing the depth of the meaning of touch is essential to survival. To touch others with art and words and reaching keeps me with life. Clothing, textures, the soil and plants, preparing food. Yeah, so these are all just really, she's bringing in like other ideas, and yes, so beautiful. Papa Charlie, thank you for speaking on this and reminding of things we can do to stay warm. Touch is critical to our thriving as humans. It's an essential part of our experience of presence. Yes, I agree. We create containers of loving consciousness for each other. Yeah, so Stephanie is saying this, and Papa is also saying this, is like, there is a way also, for instance, if you're on a phone call or like a Zoom or relating to someone in some way, you can expand that to feeling that other person's attention on you. So again, some of this can be very, very subtle, which might feel really good sometimes, and other times like, no, I want the sandbag, and play with how you can be touched by other people's consciousness. Yes. Can't pronounce this person's name, but they say, I've fostered 2 cats during this time, and it's been super rewarding. I know that's a possibility for a lot of people. I know it's not a possibility for a lot of people, but I gotta say, my kids want to get kittens, and I'm like, this close. Like, oh, I might really regret that, or I might really, really be happy we did it. I don't know. Nathan said, cats are wonderful. Absolutely. Paul Wenz. Oh, hi. He said, cheap air mattress filled with some water under, not on top. So like not lying on top of it, but putting on top of you, about 9 pounds per gallon. So be careful. But it's like an inexpensive swaddling device. Don't fill it all the way. I love that. Ironically, it's good to have a safety partner. So, like be a little careful with these things. You might need to do it outside. Don't put it on your face. Like let's be smart about these things. But that's a great idea, like a way to actually get something that kind of like can really press in on you. Great idea. Could also like, if you have hot water bottles, I'm realizing that I probably have two, right? I could put one on my chest, I could put one on my abdomen. You might find other things that you could fill with water, warm water, that would provide that kind of, um, it's like the weight itself, but also that water moves. It has that alive quality. And then I saw this one before. Nathan said shag carpeting. I thought that was fantastic. And Stephanie, again, said the renegotiating the need of touch. And Nathan was reminding us that sometimes the different settings on the shower heads can give us different, like, yeah, again, sometimes we want like real intensity and sometimes we just really want gentle. So not assuming that we know all or that it's always the same, but letting that shift and change. So thank you. Oh, it's fun to read all your comments and really beautiful to have been here with you. And you're in your space and I'm in mine, but here we are in this wider space together, feeling really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for the interaction that you brought. As far as I can tell, for just about every person that I'm in contact with in some way, there have been moments of incredible beauty during this time and moments of incredible pain or challenge or struggle or grief and moments of joy and moments of laughing. And I really acknowledge and honor all of them and let them or allow yourself to surf the wave of all the shifting and changing. And when it's good, let it be good. And when it's hard, it's okay that it's hard. You're not alone in any of those experiences. And I hope that, especially for those who might be actually physically alone, and also for those of you who have like really, really strong touch needs, that this can be helpful in some way. And I love you very much. Ciao.